Creativity management tools for professionals. The definition of creativity and its connection to the concept of innovation. How can we define creativity? What about this definition? Creativity is the ability of thinking out of scheme, reaching new and functional conclusions suited to solve a problem or to catch an opportunity. Well, this might be an interesting definition. Are there other definitions of creativity? Yes. In the creativity literature, we find many definitions. Here, we see a few references, and then even more references. What we are looking for is a definition that can be operational, that we can use in our work. Say that I'm facing a problem and I want to find some solutions. While I'm facing this problem, I think that something is possible, something is not possible, something is acceptable, something else is not acceptable, that I have a given set of resources, I have a budget, etc. All these are assumptions. All these are things that I take for granted. All these assumptions create a kind of structure around my understanding of the problem. I see the problem through this structure. Now, what I think is interesting here is that if I want, I can have a look at this structure by asking myself, what do I take for granted? What are my assumptions? Then, if I want, I can challenge these assumptions. I can disrupt some of these. I can ask, what if I didn't have the budget that I think I have, etc. And as a result, I can try to react constructively to these challenges. Now, this reaction, this constructive reaction to whatever challenges my assumptions, is what we call creativity. Now, these three steps are quite interesting because I can actually work with them. I can ask myself, what are my assumptions? So I can acknowledge, unveil whatever I take for granted. Second, I can shatter this assumption. I can challenge these assumptions. And then I can react constructively. And the reaction is what gives me the ideas that I need to solve the problem. So, if we look at the creative workflow, we can ask where, in which step, do we actually use our creative abilities? One might think immediately that it is during the idea generation phase that we actually act creatively. But if we look back at this definition, there is nothing here that limits us to react constructively to whatever shatter our assumptions during the idea generation phase. So we might react constructively, which means be creative, also during the focus phase and during the collection phase, and why not during the treatment phase. And of course, we can be creative while we design the set of criteria that we want to use for assessing the ideas that we have had. So we are creative throughout this workflow. That's why we call it the creative workflow. The next question is, where is the link between creativity and innovation? Well, basically, innovation is a phenomenon that is dependent on the context in which we are. And the very concept of innovation requires that we do some form of assessment of the ideas that we have created. We need criteria to say this idea is innovative, this other idea is not innovative. Well, I normally use three main criteria. The first one is novelty. So, is the idea novel? The second one is usefulness. Is the idea useful? And third, is this idea being used already by someone? So if I have one idea that is both novel, useful, and is being used by someone, well, I might say that there is a possibility that it is innovative within the context in which I are placed. So basically, I can have many ideas and I can be creative, but before I can say that this that I have produced is innovative, I have to assess the idea against a set of criteria. In other words, you can be creative without being innovative. And this is a larger um, topic with a lot of literature related to that. Here is a few references. Um, this idea of creativity and the operational definition of it is useful in each of the steps of the creative workshop. So it is interesting to see in the next videos how we can use it in each phase.